안녕하세요. 감사합니다. Alright, thank you for joining me again. This is Nmixx. Now, I have seen this group like everywhere. Because I believe they're one of JYP's most recent groups to come out. I know they debuted earlier this year. And I mean, lately the YouTube JYP channel's been kind of flooded with Nmixx content. So let's check out this. I believe it is their debut track. Is it is it O.O? I'm not sure yet. Let's see if I can decipher it from the actual song here. Interesting concept. This O.O, 0 and 0, O and O. A lot of different sort of levels to the way they're applying this concept. Quite an eclectic mix of stylings in this song. It's interesting. It's definitely different. It's definitely trying to cut its own, like, space, I guess you could say. Yeah. So, like, because it, yeah, okay, so I guess the way I would try to sort it out is that, JYP already has Twice, and they already have ITZY. So I think this is like sort of a different combination of elements that aren't necessarily found in those other groups, being that they're sort of the ones who are putting out content, so very different. There was almost sort of like a little epilogue or prologue or whatever to this to this song or this video, like a completely different section. Man, it's interesting. It's totally different. This is like just a completely different space than some of those other groups. Although there were some really cool elements that are present. Let's see. I know. So this one seemed a little bit more. A little bit more modern trap. Kind of a mix right at the start, and then the next section seems to be more of a consonant sort of pop infused with like some guitar work. It's very different. Overall, this group and this concept contrast very sharply with say other groups like Twice and ITZY that are also under JYP, right? I have to say I have a lot of respect for JYP, the Park JY, right? The guy, because he's really good at what he does. And I noticed that when I was watching the episodes of the 16 show. And all the people, the managers, the other sort of judges that they had for the different challenges, all the like the vocal coaches and the choreography coaches, like they're all very adept at what they do, but JYP has this ability to really just sort of like see certain elements of talent, be it vocal performance or dance performance, aesthetics, style, attitude, concepts. He's really good at just like seeing that. Like he'll watch somebody and then go, oh, okay, so this is what you're about. Okay, well, if that's what you're about, then you need to work on like this is pretty good, but you need to work on this, and it's so fast too. It's just like he kind of does it like immediately. So it's just interesting. It's interesting to see, being that my whole introduction to K-pop was Twice, and then also becoming familiar with ITZY. So I'm trying to see like, okay, well, what is they doing? Like what is JYP doing? And it makes sense. Like again, I have to acknowledge that they're not just trying to do the same thing over and over again. Like each group gets to be its own, its own group. They're not like, oh, this is the next Twice or this is the next ITZY or something. It's like no, they're gonna do their own thing. It's interesting, but since this has such a distinct like separation between its sections, right? The first of all, this is a very cool aesthetic here. So beached pirate ship. I mean, sort of crazy dystopian backdrop. They have a great aesthetic. It's a very it's very aggressive, very what is it? It's like there's dissonant sound. It's good choreography. I dig the choreography. It's very sort of dissonant, cutting sound. A lot of attitude, a lot of like assertiveness, you know, in this first section here. And so the aesthetic of the video is sort of matching that tone with a lot of the imagery that's in the sort of darker color schemes that are being used here. Yeah, definitely sort of trap based type of sound here. Or there's that sort of stuttering hat that's going at a very high rate. Interesting sort of synth horn sound to use. It's man, it's just different. Actually, really cool bass. That's a cool bass. Yeah, no, the drums, the bass, and that synth horn sound, along with the vocal, just going really hard. Like going really very hard at that first section there. And this is such a distinct, definite sort of break here. Interesting transition too visually, because they were like all attitude and all like, you know, assertiveness, even in the choreography, like the movements and everything, and especially with the sound. And then it all stops. If she's breaking through these like walls at first, and then she breaks down this door, and there's a complete change in the color palette. There's a complete change in the style of the aesthetic. Now all of a sudden they look very sort of friendly and pop oriented, and you know, a lot less assertive. Even this right here, this expression, this is not the same assertiveness. Candy and donuts and holograms. Much more major sounding key here in this progression. Interesting. Everything is fake, but I ain't a fake. The real starts now. Like they're leaning into the entire transition. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept, man. Huh. Man. Let's see. They sound great. Their vocals sound absolutely great. They're strong. Everyone has, well, so far, I mean, you know, what I've heard, no, their vocals are definitely there. Like JYP standard, right? Like they meet that threshold, kind of. I really dig the guitar sound in this one. the sort of distortion that's being used, the sort of thrashy distortion on this guitar sound. Both sections in 4, but total contrast difference between the how major this sounds. This is really nice, this section. Punchy percussion. Again, transition back to a darker sort of aesthetic, and that trappy sound comes back again with that synth horn, that busy hat stuttering rhythm. The percussion on this is super interesting, man. The compression that's applied to the drums, to the drum sound in this, is like it's very strong, very punchy, sort of very cutting. It's a crazy interesting mix, dude. Interesting. They sound great. They sound really good, man. It's just such a mashup of sounds, you know. But you know what? It's cool because I look forward to hearing more, to see perhaps in a more streamlined type of track production, you know, how they can sound, if they can get into a groove and have a little bit more continuity across it. To see how interesting the different registers of their voices work together, because they sound really good, man. Like there's no deficit there as far as the vocal work is going. There were some really great rhythms in the vocal section as well. Like the mix it's has these two different sort of things that they're doing here, with one trap heavy sound and one more sort of like electro pop kind of sound that's going on. But I think like the vocal parts are way more interesting in this track. Like I just want to hear them kind of get into a more consistent groove on something, and just see how they harmonize a little bit more, and how an arrangement would sound like, with a little bit more continuity across the track. But a very, very interesting concept as well, this O.O, because they're playing on both the like numerical type of 0-0, the like O.O as in like the alphabetical, like the, you know, for as in words as opposed to numbers. Even the symbols, the imagery of it, right? Because like there's this sign up here with the two rings there. The choreography they had, you know, there's so many different layers that they're applying this concept to, and it's very cool. It's totally, I mean, I dig it. I just it's just such a strong contrast between the two like parts in this as far as the sections go, the way it goes with that really assertive sort of dark trap heavy sound into a much lighter sound. And they're playing with this whole idea, like saying that this is a little bit more of a deliberate type of representation, whereas the pop sound was supposed to be a cleaner, perhaps more honest and accurate type of depiction. It's super busy, and it's very interesting. I'm very curious about this. Like, where does this group go? Because I believe this was their debut track. So it has a it's a pretty good like example of the different directions that they can go in. So it'll be super interesting to see them take one of these directions and drive in it a little bit more, right? Because it's solid either way. If they want to go with something real, something more dark, something more minor sounding, something more, in that type of direction, they can do it. If they want to do something a little bit more lighter, a little bit more pop, sort of contemporary, they can do that as well. It's just, which way are they gonna go at times, right? Because you can do both. There's nothing that says they have to stay within any one lane or whatever. And to that effect, to that point, there's nothing wrong with this either. I mean, to show both sides of the coin, that's fine. It's fine. It's almost like two smaller songs that are juxtaposed to make a overall sort of production. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. Okay. I'm very curious to see where it goes. They obviously have some staying power because they're certainly receiving the push as far as from JYP, because I have almost every day, more than once, they pop up in my feed, in my YouTube feed, and most of it is not really performance or music video or song oriented. There's a lot of like the extra stuff, the sort of outside of production stuff, but they're definitely getting the push of that latest group to come out, kind of a treatment, you know what I mean? Which is good. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what they're supposed to do. So interesting, man. I'm like super curious to see where this goes. It's a crazy sound. It's good. They sound really good. They sound really strong. They're super confident. They have great voices. Just want to see them sort of like pick a direction and kind of go with it. I think it's going to be actually really, really good. You know what I mean? Like I have this feeling like if they decided to have a more a track with more continuity on a certain style, they could probably just do a really good job of it. So I'm looking forward to that. Super interesting, man. Very curious. Nmixx. Is it O.O? I think it's O.O, right? O.O. But Nmixx. Let's see what direction they go in.